The Norman invasion of England in 1066 was one of the most pivotal moments in British history, forever shaping the culture, language, and politics of the country. The central event of this invasion was the Battle of Hastings, fought on October 14, 1066, between the invading Norman forces led by William, Duke of Normandy, later known as William the Conqueror, and the defending English army commanded by King Harold II. This battle not only resulted in a decisive victory for William, but also marked the beginning of the Norman rule in England, transforming the social structure, legal system, and even the architecture of the country. The road to invasion. The seeds of the Norman invasion were planted when King Edward the Confessor, ruler of England, died in January 1066 without an heir. Edward's death created a power vacuum and led to a succession crisis. Three major contenders emerged to claim the throne. Harold Godwinson, the powerful Earl of Wessex, who was chosen by the Witenagemot, the Council of Nobles, to succeed Edward. William, Duke of Normandy. William claimed that Edward had promised him the throne years earlier, and that Harold had even sworn an oath to support William's claim. Harald Hardrada, King of Norway. He based his claim on a previous agreement between the former King of England, Harthacnut, and the King of Norway. Harold Godwinson was crowned king, but both William and Harald Hardrada were not willing to let his ascension go uncontested. The two-front invasion. Before William could challenge Harold, Harold faced an immediate threat from Harald Hardrada, who, along with Harold's estranged brother Tostig, launched an invasion from the north. In September 1066, Hardrada's forces landed in northern England and met Harold's army at the Battle of Stamford Bridge on September 25, 1066. Despite being outnumbered, Harold II's forces won a stunning victory, killing Hardrada and Tostig and ending the Norwegian threat to his crown. However, Harold's success came at a cost. His army was exhausted from the battle, and the forced march south to face William's invasion just days later. The Norman invasion begins. William, having gathered a formidable force of around 7,000 soldiers, including archers, infantry, and cavalry, launched his invasion from Normandy in late September 1066. His fleet landed at Pevensey on the southern coast of England on September 28, 1066, unopposed. With Harold preoccupied in the north, William began consolidating his position, raiding local villages to draw Harold into battle. Meanwhile, Harold, having just dealt with Hardrada, had to hurriedly march his army, tired and depleted, south to face William. The Battle of Hastings. The two armies finally met near the town of Hastings on October 14, 1066. Harold's army, made up mostly of infantry, formed a strong defensive position on a ridge known as Senlac Hill. They used a tactic called the shield wall, in which the soldiers locked their shields together to create a nearly impenetrable barrier. William's army, composed of archers, infantry, and cavalry, faced an uphill battle, literally. Throughout the day, the Normans launched several attacks on the English position, but Harold's shield wall held firm. The English had the advantage of defense, but William had more varied troops and the advantage of cavalry. The turning point. The turning point of the battle came when a portion of William's forces, seemingly retreating, lured a group of Harold's soldiers down the hill. As the English soldiers broke formation to pursue the fleeing Normans, William's cavalry turned around and slaughtered them. This tactic of feigned retreat was a clever maneuver that William likely learned from his experiences in earlier battles. Seeing the success of this tactic, William used it repeatedly, gradually wearing down the English forces. In the latter stages of the battle, Harold was struck by an arrow, reportedly in the eye, and killed. With their king dead and their shield wall broken, the English forces collapsed. By the end of the day, William had won a decisive victory. Aftermath and consequences. William's victory at Hastings did not immediately secure his control over England. While he had defeated Harold and broken the English army, he still faced resistance from local lords and needed to solidify his claim to the throne. William marched his army toward London, systematically subduing any opposition along the way. On December 25, 1066, William was crowned King of England at Westminster Abbey, marking the beginning of Norman rule over the country. But the consequences of the Norman invasion went far beyond a simple change in leadership. Norman rule and its impact on England. The Norman conquest brought significant changes to English society, culture, and governance. Some of the most important changes included feudalism. The Normans introduced the feudal system to England. Under this system, William distributed land to his loyal followers in exchange for military service. The English nobility was largely replaced by Norman landowners, which shifted the balance of power in favor of William's supporters. This system also tied the peasants to the land they worked, reinforcing a rigid class structure. Language and culture. The Norman elite spoke Norman French, and for centuries, French became the language of the English court, law, and literature. Over time, the fusion of Norman French and Old English created Middle English, the precursor to the modern English language. Architecture. The Normans were also master builders, introducing Romanesque architecture to England. They built impressive stone castles, including the Tower of London, as well as many grand cathedrals and churches that still stand today. Legal reforms. The Normans reformed England's legal system, introducing more centralized governance. William commissioned the Domesday Book in 1086, an extensive survey of landholdings and resources in England. This document provided William with a detailed understanding of his new kingdom and allowed him to efficiently tax and control the population. Resistance and rebellions. Not all of England accepted William's rule without a fight. In the years following the Battle of Hastings, several rebellions broke out, particularly in the north of England. The most notable of these was the harrying of the North in 1069 to 1070, when William brutally suppressed resistance in northern England. His forces devastated the region, killing thousands of people and destroying vast areas of farmland, causing widespread famine. Legacy of the Norman Conquest. The Norman invasion of 1066 was not just a military conquest, it marked a turning point in the history of England. The victory at the Battle of Hastings established William the Conqueror as one of the most powerful kings in Europe and changed the course of English history. Under Norman rule, England became more connected to continental Europe, particularly France. The fusion of Anglo-Saxon and Norman cultures created a unique English identity that would continue to evolve over the centuries. In many ways, the events of 1066 laid the foundation for the modern English state. The legal and cultural reforms introduced by the Normans shaped the development of English law, language, and government, and the influence of the Norman conquest can still be seen today. The year 1066 remains one of the most famous dates in British history, and the Norman invasion is a key moment in understanding the development of medieval and modern England.